What's up, guys? You're watching Channel 89. I'm the Twiz, and today I want to tell you guys about my top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. Let me first preface this by saying that while I love TV and I grew up watching TV a ton, I'm not a huge TV guy now as far as like modern TV and stuff like that. Like, I've never seen Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or Game of Thrones. Like, I don't watch stuff like that. I don't watch like kind of the more trendy shows. I mean, I don't have anything against them per se, but I just prefer more like stuff from that I grew up with and rewatching stuff or shows from the 90s that I missed out on. There's too much stuff out there and too much I got to catch up on to watch a lot of the newer shows. So I hope I don't offend anybody by not mentioning some of their favorite shows as well. If you have your own list, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear it, but just personally, your shows probably aren't going to make it on my list. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Number 5 on my list is Full House. This is a show that I watched back when it was on. I remember when it aired its final episode. A show that gets kind of a bad rap nowadays. People like to call it corny and cheesy, which it is, but it's kind of become like a staple of the 90s and people love to make fun of it. It's kind of become that show that kind of represents the 90s sitcom and the stereotypical 90s TV shows. But personally, I love it. Like I said, I'm a nostalgia first kind of guy, and Full House is a show I can still watch today, and my nostalgia meter just climbs probably the highest it can climb. Absolutely love Full House still to this day. And yeah, it's number 5. Number 4 on my list is Peewees Playhouse. Peewees Playhouse, if you haven't seen it, is like a mind trip. It's about this guy, Pee Wee Herman, who's kind of like a man-child, and he goes into this playhouse in this weird undisclosed location in the forest, and inside are these weird wacky characters, and the set is like dreamlike and super imaginative, and it really kind of helped form my creativity, especially as a young age. And Pee-wee's Playhouse is something that I still watch now, and it's something that I can attribute to kind of igniting that creative spark in me at a really young age. I remember renting this show on VHS from the library, or borrowing the show from the library, and I just watched it on repeat. I had to have been like the only dude borrowing this show from the library because it was always there, and our library was pretty busy, but they always were in stock, and I always was reaching the maximum borrow limit for tapes back then. I'm sure my parents loved it. Number 3 on my list is The Office. Like I said, I don't have a lot of modern shows on my list. I consider The Office modern. It ended, what, like 2011, 2012, something like that. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty modern still compared to the other shows on my list. But The Office is just one of those shows that I can put on whenever and I immediately get sucked into. It's hysterical. It's from start to finish, it's made to just be like joke, 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 joke. And it's almost unreal how consistent the humor is in The Office. Steve Carell is one of my favorite comedians, one of my favorite comic actors. He's absolutely hysterical in this show. He makes it. The rest of the cast is solid as well, but Steve Carell makes the show. And as you see in the later seasons after he leaves, still funny, but ultimately Steve Carell is my guy. Number 2 on my list is really close to number 1 on my list. It's a show called Boy Meets World. This was a show that was pretty iconic in my life to me at a young age in junior high. Well, not a really young age, I guess, but the last 2 seasons of Boy Meets World are kind of hit or miss for me, which is what prevents it from being probably tied with my number 1 show. But I have ranked every single episode of Boy Meets World painstakingly. I'll link to that in the description, and you guys can check that out. But yeah, Boy Meets World is just a show that I connect with. It's one of those shows that feels really personal to me, a show I grew up with and attached myself to pretty much immediately. I didn't watch it upon its original run, but I watched it when it was on syndication on the Disney Channel. I don't think I was allowed to watch it when I was much younger than that, but yeah, Boy Meets World, killer show. I'm sure it's kind of got a cult following and a lot of my friends are into it. We grew up with it together too. And my number 1 favorite TV show of all time is a show called Even Stevens. On the Disney Channel back, it aired in 2000 and ran until 2003. 65 episodes, pretty short, shorter than I'd like it to be. It was actually back to back with Boy Meets World, which was like an amazing time in my life. I'd go home, do some homework, then I had my alarm set for Even Stevens and Boy Meets World, and I would watch it every day. This is a show that I pretty much, I don't know if you guys ever have this experience, but there are certain things in life, whether it be TV shows, movies, songs, that feel like they were made just for you. Even Stevens is a show like that for me. I named my son after the main character, played by Shia LaBeouf. It's about a kid who kind of feels like a misfit within his own family. His whole family is overachievers, and he's kind of like the black sheep. And it's just hysterical, and Shia just kills it. He's my favorite actor of all time, largely in part of his role in the show, and obviously I followed his career after that as well. Everyone who knows me knows that this is my favorite TV show. I'm pretty much obsessed with it. I have a podcast that goes over episode by episode. You can check it out. It's called the Even Stevens Ranked Podcast. And then I've also ranked every episode of the show, of that series as well. And I'll put a link to that too down below. Even the weaker episodes of the series, I can find enjoyment in watching. There's no episode where I'm like, oh my gosh, this episode sucks. Now, fortunately, it's available on Disney Plus, which it was for years. You can watch it anywhere except for like the bootleg copies and stuff like that. If you haven't seen Even Stevens, go out and watch it. It holds up still to this day. And it's hysterical. So yeah, that's my list, top 5 favorite TV shows. I just wanted to do this list because there's not a lot of TV that I would talk about. I might touch upon like more nostalgic stuff in the future, but I feel like TV stuff's gonna be more few and far between. I want to do some 90s Nickelodeon stuff too, because I'm really into 90s Nickelodeon. Some honorable mentions that I want to point out are Smart Guy, Salute Your Shorts from Nickelodeon, Keenan and Kel also from Nickelodeon, and The Cosby Show. I do want to give a shout out to The Late Show with David Letterman. That show on my original list was number 3, but I wanted to keep this list more traditional TV, more written stuff. I didn't want to really talk about talk shows or game shows or anything like that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you next time right here on Channel 89. Until then, don't touch that dial.